Hey, what's up guys? Brian Kelly here from Zombie Guitar. Here in this video I want to talk about the concept of intervals. So I'm just going to be giving you an overview of this idea. There's a lot more. This can go very in depth, but I just want to give you an overview because this is a really important thing to understand, because if you're used to, if you're stuck in box patterns type of thinking and you're just playing the same scalar runs and stuff like that, and you're kind of stuck just visualizing the fretboard in a certain way that a lot of guitar players tend to do, intervals can really be the thing that breaks you through and really just you visualize the fretboard in a completely new light. So these are really cool, and it's all based on the sound. So all that an interval is just the spacing between one note and another note. So if you can recognize the sound of what that spacing sounds like, you can basically go anywhere on the guitar, listen for that sound, listen for that interval spacing sound, and you can come up with licks and runs without necessarily needing to know what key you're in, without necessarily needing to know which notes you're playing, without necessarily needing to know which specific box pattern applies. You just listen to this for the sound of this interval, and you can say, okay, that's a major third sound. Oh, okay, I know what to do from here. So you're listening for these interval sounds, and then you take it from there. So that's what this lesson's all about. I'm not going to be talking about every single possible interval, but just some of the common ones. So let's get started. So keep in mind that everything comes from the major scale. So for this lesson, we're going to be looking at the A major scale. So any type of A scale that you want to derive comes from the A major scale. A minor scale, a harmonic minor scale, a melodic minor, a pentatonic minor, a major pentatonic, whatever. That all comes from the A major scale as its starting point, and then that's how you get your other scales. Same thing with chords. Any type of A chord, a major chord, a minor chord, a dominant seventh chord, a major seven, a diminished chord, whatever. It all comes from the A major scale. So let's start there. So here's your A major scale in just one octave. So that contains 7 notes. Apply the numbers 1 through 7 to each of those notes. So instead of calling them 1 through 7, you can give them their interval names. So this is known as the root. This is known as the major second. This is known as the major third. This is known as perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, and then octave. So playing one note followed by another note is going to be what gives you the interval sound. So if you want to hear the sound of a major second, that sounds like this. You can play it here. You can play it here. You can play it here. So hearing that sound, that's the major second sound. So every other type of interval also has its own specific type of sound, and that's what we're going to be looking out for in this lesson. So we're going to start out with thirds. Let's listen to thirds here. So thirds, if you want to hear a major third, that comes from the A major scale. So your third is this. So that's what the sound of a third sounds like. So anywhere I have a note and I want to hear this sound, I know that's a major third sound. So anywhere I have an A on the fretboard, so I hear that sound, that's the major third sound. So you don't always have to play it on the same string. That can be kind of funky sometimes. So this note right here, A, this note right here on the 9th fret, that's the note C sharp. That note can also be found here, 4th fret of the A string. So you can always play your major thirds like this. Alright, so again, you're listening for that sound. So things get kind of confusing on the B string because everything kind of shifts up by 1 fret on the B string. But, you're going to hear the sound. You're going to hear, well, that's not the sound I'm looking for. That's the sound I'm looking for. So even if you do get confused on the B string, you're listening for this major third type of sound. So the same thing would apply to a minor third. So from A, if that's your major third, a minor third is just 1 half step lower. So this would be your minor third. So again, You could play that anywhere. Or you can also play that on adjacent strings. So if this is your note C, if that's your note C, you also have minor thirds like that. So that's the sound. So another thing to listen out for is fifths. So fifths is the perfect fifth. So here's your root, here's your perfect fifth. There's that sound. Play them together, you have what's known as a power chord. Root fifth, that's a power chord. So listen for that sound. So here's A. Anything else other than that is not going to sound right. Alright, so that's your sound of your fifth. So why is the fifth important? Well, because 1/2 step lower is what's known as the flat 5 or the blue note. That's also known as a diminished fifth. So sometimes there's different names for these intervals. So this can be called a flat 5 or it can be called a diminished fifth. Whatever you want to call it, just listen for the sound. So listen for that sound. That's the flat 5 sound. And that's important because you know that 1/2 step higher is a perfect fifth, 1/2 step lower is a perfect fourth. So you can always play those three notes in succession with each other and do bluesy runs. So whenever you can find that flat 5, you can always find this. You hear that a lot in music. Alright, so the next interval to listen out for is going to be the minor seventh interval. So the minor seventh interval is 1/2 step lower than the major seventh interval, which is found in the major scale. So going back to our A major scale, we have, that's our seventh note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, back at the root, or the octave. So if this is our major 7 sound, that's the major 7. 1/2 step lower than the major 7 is the minor 7. So the minor 7 is found 1 whole step lower than the root. So anywhere you have your root, 1 whole step lower is going to be where that interval is found. So hear that sound and then try and get used to playing the root lower and then the minor 7th higher. So alright, listen for that sound. So if you can hear the root and the minor 7th sound together, that's where dominant 7th chords come from. So if you take the root and then the major 3rd and then that minor 7th, that's how you get your dominant 7th chords. So root, major 3rd. You already know your major 3rd sound. So if you throw in that minor 7 sound, you have your dominant 7th chords. So just listening for these intervals. So listen for the major 3rd sound, listen for the minor 7th sound, Put them all together, you have dominant seventh chords. All right, so another cool thing about this seventh, this minor seventh, is that 1/2 step below it is going to be the major sixth. So here's your major scale. That's your sixth note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1/2 step higher is that minor seventh. So kind of hammering on, we're doing a bend. So you hear that a lot in blues too. So knowing where your seventh is, knowing the sound of that seventh, and then going 1/2 step lower to that sixth. So then 6, 7, whatever that's a very bluesy thing. All right, so let's see how we can take this stuff and we can come up with scale licks and phrases and stuff like that, no matter where you happen to be on the fretboard. So if you can find your note A, you can always find surrounding notes based on these intervals, and let's see how we can do that. So let's start off on our A major scale. So here's A major. If I wanted to make the A minor scale, I would lower the third, the sixth, and the seventh by 1/2 step. So instead of having a major third, a major sixth, and a major seventh, I'm now going to have a minor third, a minor sixth, and a minor seventh. So root 2 or major second, minor third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, minor sixth, minor 7, root. So sometimes that's also referred to as the flat 3 or the flat 6 or the flat 7. So minor 3, minor 6, minor 7, or flat 3, flat 6, flat 7, it's all the same thing. So that's your A natural minor scale. And then if you eliminate 2 of those notes, if you eliminate the second and you eliminate the sixth, or the minor sixth, you're left with your A minor pentatonic scale. So an A minor pentatonic scale consists of a root, a minor third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, and then that flat 7, and then back at root. So 5 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, back at the root again. So root, minor third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, flat 7 or minor 7, and then root, and then minor third. So knowing these intervals that are part of the minor pentatonic scale, I can then basically come up with pentatonic licks wherever I'm at. So if I know where my root is, if I know where my A is, so here's an A here, I know that a minor third is like this. So I know where my minor third is. That's a very common interval to use in the minor pentatonic scale. And then I have that flat 7 or that minor 7, which is 1 whole step lower than the root. So that's thrown in that 7th. I also have that 5th. So if I have my root, I have my 5th. And anywhere my 5th is, 1/2 step lower is going to be the blue note, which is the flat 5. 1/2 step lower than that is going to be the 4th, the perfect 4th. So I can always do the blues run there, the 3-note blues run. I can try to do the same thing here. Alright, so it doesn't matter where I'm at. right, so I'm just kind of getting a feel for this stuff. I'm not relying on box patterns or anything like that. I'm relying on intervals to guide me to where I'm trying to go. So that's the pentatonic stuff. And then you can always throw in your major thirds if you know where your minor third is. So you know your major third's 1/2 step higher. Or if I know where my flat 7 is, I know 1/2 step lower than the flat 7 is that major 6th. Right, no matter where I'm at, I have these reference intervals and then the notes nearby them. So it takes a little bit of practice, but it's just it's a different way of visualizing the fretboard than the typical guitar player box pattern way of doing things. So I'm going to stop there for today. I don't want to get too overwhelming with this stuff. If you want me to do a part 2, I can do a part 2. Just let me know. Hope you guys like this lesson. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.